Replacing a legend is very difficult to do, especially when you are replacing somewhat of a modern legend. At the University of Central Florida, McKenzie Milton, before breaking his leg, was the savior and was going to bring UCF to the promised land of the college football playoffs. But after suffering a broken leg and after learning he would not be able to play for over a year, the University of Central Florida turned to fellow Hawaiian quarterback Dillion Gabriel. Quietly, Dillion Gabriel has been breaking all of UCF's passing records. So this leaves the question, who is Dillion Gabriel? In the Who Is series, we go through the backstories of up-and-coming collegiate and professional athletes. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Dillion Gabriel grew up in Mililani, Hawaii. He was raised by his parents, Dory and Garrett Gabriel. Garrett Gabriel is a household name in the island of Hawaii as a quarterback. And his time as a football player, he sparked Pac-5 to an Oahu Prep Bowl win. He played in a run-and-shoot offense, which his son played in high school. He operated the spread option at Hawaii with Paul Johnson as the offensive coordinator. In Hawaii, McKenzie Milton is somewhat of a legend as well. Back in high school, he set every single Hawaiian quarterback record. Well, to no surprise, it was the son of an all-time famous Hawaii quarterback, Dillion Gabriel, who broke all of Milton's records. From the time he was a young kid, his father Garrett has been completely invested in him and his talents. Every morning from the time he was a young man, he would wake up at 7 a.m., eat a healthy breakfast made by his mother, and he would stretch out and go throw with his father. This lasted even through high school when Dillion Gabriel was playing quarterback. This was a tradition that never went away. His father ran a bit of a different offense when he was a quarterback. He ran a spread option at Hawaii, however times have changed and is not always the most effective offense. In this time of football, the run-pass option is something that is very popular with schools all around the country and even at the professional level. Dillion was already equipped to handle the aspects of the RPO or run-pass option. His father taught him from a young age that it is really important to perfect timing along with physical ability. It is crazy to think, but by freshman year, Gabriel already caught the eyes of his coaches. Being a household name because of your father is not always the easiest thing for a young football player. It adds some unneeded pressure when you are also named after a former New England Patriots star running back, Corey Dillon. Expectations were naturally high for the young Gabriel. There's always some sort of ridiculous expectation that comes with trying to fill someone else's shoes. This is something that Gabriel has not escaped throughout his football career. It is not always easy to piece together Dillion Gabriel's football career in high school. So here's what we know. Dillion Gabriel was originally the starting quarterback in 2016. He was a starting quarterback through his time in high school. He was an absolute star in Hawaii. He broke all of McKenzie Milton's and all the Hawaiian State high school football passing records. It is absolutely unheard of that a young man with so much personality and talent is unknown. There's not much documented about his childhood. All we know is he put up astonishing numbers at the high school level. Now, while his passing numbers are incredibly hard to find, what we know is that Dillion Gabriel broke the Hawaii high school passing records. He broke a record his teammate in college, McKenzie Milton, had. He broke the record in 2018 when he had an incredible performance when he threw for 362 yards and 5 touchdowns against YNIA in 2018. There is one thing about Dillion Gabriel that everybody does not need to research to find out. Dillion Gabriel demands respect through his play. In high school, he was never one to cheer and gloat. He was the one to show it on the field. He left everything on the field for his high school, and colleges seem to be missing out on Dillion Gabriel. It is absolutely surprising that a young man of his caliber was overlooked by scouts and overlooked by many of the most prestigious football programs in the country. Now, Dillion Gabriel wasn't the most incredible prospect by his measurables. He stood at 5'11" and weighed 186 pounds. He was a pro-style quarterback, which bode well for him. In fact, he was so overlooked that he only had 5 college offers from major programs. Those 5 programs were Air Force, Army, USC, Georgia, and UCF. Dillion Gabriel made a couple of college visits. He visited Georgia, USC, and UCF. A funny story about UCF is that originally, they were not even going to look at Dillion Gabriel. But fellow Hawaiian quarterback McKenzie Milton told him, "Hey, you need to check this guy out. He is incredible." Well, UCF did their due diligence and they sent him an offer. He visited their campus on November 10th, 2018, and he also visited Georgia on December 8th, 2018. Now, although he did not visit, it seemed like Army was his favorite to sign with. 24/7 Sports have stated that they believe he was going to USC. There was so much ambiguity with Dillion Gabriel's high school time, his scouting, his childhood, and even his college selection. Some have even stated that UCF pulled him out of the grasp of Army and got him to commit when he was already going to commit to West Point. Mackenzie Milton sang the praises of the program, and Dillion Gabriel went all in. And on December 19, 2018, Dillion Gabriel committed to becoming a UCF Knight, and on the next day, he signed his letter of intent and enrolled less than a month later. A lot of college football fans know this, but Mackenzie Milton went down with a major injury in November 2018. It was an injury that was gruesome, and it was absolutely terrible for him to go through. UCF started quarterback Darryl Mack and finished out the season 8 points away from winning a major bowl game. So, when Dillion Gabriel committed to UCF, there was really no clear path to him being the starting quarterback. Although Milton's injury was a gruesome one, there was no way of knowing whether he would come back next season or if he would need more time. There was no clear path to being the starting quarterback at UCF for Dillion Gabriel. He was impressing his coaches early, but really there was no signs that he was going to be the guy. But on July 4th, 2019, Darryl Mack Jr., who basically had the starting job on lock, fractured his ankle at a party. Now this is something that college coaches, high school coaches, and any coach anywhere would be absolutely angry and frustrated about. In fact, they were so frustrated that when Mack was healthy, he did not play. UCF also had Brandon Wimbush as the season starting quarterback because he had entered the transfer portal from Notre Dame and came to UCF. Clearly, there were so many hurdles that Gabriel had to jump over in order to be the starting quarterback of the Knights. But after a couple of bad starts from the Notre Dame transfer Wimbush, the coaches decided it was time for Gabriel to show them what he can do. It is never easy taking over for someone you had admired, but it looked pretty easy for Gabriel. In the first game that Gabriel got time, he went 9 for 13 for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns against FAMU. The coaches were very impressed with him. The next week, he got another 20 passing attempts, in which he completed 7 of them for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns in a massive win over FAU. On Saturday, September 14th, 2019, Gabriel was the official starter for the UCF Knights. Although he was a true freshman, not even a year out of high school, he was not afraid of the big show. In his first career start, he went 22 for 30 for 347 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no turnovers. In a heartbreaking start the next week, he led his team to scoring 34 points, only to lose by 1 point at the end of the game on a trick play by Pitt. He completed 25 of his 42 passes for 338 yards and 2 touchdowns. The true freshman the next week was frustrated at what really happened. Giving full credit to Pitt, they were a good team, but Gabriel expected more out of himself. The next week, he went 11 for 16 for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they absolutely blew out UConn by a score of 56-21. It seemed like early on he was a big play machine, and there is absolutely no doubt about it. The next week, they played a ranked Cincinnati team in Cincinnati and lost a very tough game. Dillion Gabriel was beginning to struggle on the road, and it was a bit of a trend for the rest of the season. He completed 25 of his 46 passes for about 300 yards, but he had 3 turnovers. The next week against East Carolina University, he completed 22 passes for 365 yards and 2 touchdowns. Every time he went back to the bounce house, he knew how to light up a scoreboard. And that he did, because the next 2 times he was at the bounce house, he scored 44 and 34 points. But as I said, his road struggles did continue when he played Tulsa. He completed 23 passes for 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, and a loss on the road by the score of 34-31. Now, by the end of the year, Dillion Gabriel had his team in line for a bowl game, which was very impressive for a true freshman. In the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl, the UCF Knights defeated Marshall by a score of 48-25. Gabriel completed 58% of his passes for 2 touchdowns and no turnovers, and he also rushed for a touchdown. On the season, he completed 222 out of 374 passes for 3,393 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He had 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground and 77 yards. He's a pro-style quarterback, so running the ball was not really part of his arsenal. However, when necessary, Dillion Gabriel scrambled for a first down. In 2020, this has changed. Dillion Gabriel has actually been running the ball. He has been given the trust to do so by head coach Josh Heupel. So far in 2020, UCF has scored 100 points through 2 games. They beat up on Georgia Tech and East Carolina University. So far, Dillion Gabriel has completed 59 of 88 passes for 825 yards and a 67% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He has also added 10 carries for 31 yards. But we have seen the last 2 weekends that Gabriel is not afraid to keep the ball on an RPO and take off. His measurables are actually pretty good. He ran an unofficial 4.94 40. So far, he has broken many records for quarterbacks at UCF. The same records set by Blake Bortles, Dante Culpepper, and Mackenzie Milton. Not bad for a 3-star recruit that not many people really knew about. He was nationally the 758th player ranked. He was a 3-star recruit, but he was playing like a superstar down in Florida. If you like this video, check out my other videos in the Who Is series. Subscribe to the channel and remember to embrace the grind.